Hi, I'm Liz Cully, and welcome back to Cool, Cool, Cool. Each week, I give you a glimpse into what I think is cool and chat with a ton of people that are definitely cool. No topic is off bounds unless I guess it's not cool. Welcome to Cool, Cool, Cool. Unless you are living under a rock, you have likely either watched or heard about the HBO mega hit series Succession, who has basically won like every single Emmy over the course of the last few years. Succession follows the fictitious Roy family that, let's be honest, is basically the Murdoch family with touches of the Trumps and other incredibly wealthy American families. And everyone is rich and everyone is stabbing everyone in the back. Everyone is very white. Everyone is very waspy, and it is very, very good. The final episode of the series airs this weekend, and people are not happy about it. I am not happy about it. I hadn't watched it for a while, and then Rachel and I binged it all, and I absolutely love it. I love the drama. I love the cringy moments. The acting, the writing is so, so good on this show. And it's a bummer, because we have a lot of shit TV, and Succession is not shit TV. Succession is very good TV. I received a DM like a month or two ago on my Cool 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 Instagram from a person pitching me to come on the show, which I love, because I got to be honest with you. I know a lot of cool people, and I have a lot of, I think, good ideas, but a pitch is great. Are pitches usually very good? No, they are not. They are not very good. I don't usually get pitches that I like, but this one was very interesting. It was from a woman named Holly Cinnamon, who happens to be Shiv, who is in Succession. If you haven't watched it, you should. Oh, by the way, if you haven't watched Succession and you're listening to this episode, thank you so much, but you probably won't understand half of it, but like, whatever. Shiv's body double, Shiv's stand-in. Like, what? And Holly is queer. My mind is blown. I'm so excited. I like do a little bit of research. I'm like, okay, Holly is cool. Holly's from Canada. Holly is a musician. Holly is very, very out and queer. I'm into this. I always had a vibe that Shiv in the show was queer. Shiv is played by this Australian actress named Sarah Snook, who is fabulous. I did meet her once. We will talk about it in this episode. And while Shiv never hooks up with another woman on the show, she seemed very bummed out when her husband, Tom, turned their potential threesome into a twosome. And her whole attitude about the threesome and hooking up with a woman seemed like, I don't know, at least at the very least, Shiv is flexible in her sexuality. But I'm obsessed with the idea that Shiv's stand-in is a queer out woman. I'm like completely obsessed with it. I sort of love the idea that a queer woman is Shiv's body double.
Thanks. Yeah, I love it too.
It's funny because I find Shiv to be like a gay icon in many ways. Takes no shit. Definitely sort of has the weight of the world on her shoulders. I had a friend growing up, and her uncle was a very long time stand-in for Happy Days, which is like random. And I remember thinking to myself, what a cool, I mean, obviously you're an actor, you're a singer songwriter, you're a performer in so many ways. So obviously this isn't like the one thing that you do, right? But a fun thing to do as a job to have as you pursue all of these other things, and probably just like any other job, right? But I always thought to myself, what a cool way of being like like not only being involved in something that I don't want to say, and almost being able to be involved in, but always sort of have like a bird's eye view of something, but also a masterclass in how, you know what I mean? Like how to really see from all different angles how a show or a play or a film or whatever it might be is made. Is this your first time being is it stand-in, body like tell me, I don't want to misrepresent.
The words that the terms that I usually use, or the jobs that I do, are stand-in primarily, and then sometimes I photo double for her. So essentially body double is typically used if it's like you're seeing a dead body, or there's nudity, or it's just hands or something specific that's more like about the body, versus photo double. Like there's a scene in season 3 where she's going down the West Side Highway in a car, and there's an aerial shot from a helicopter of her like opening the window, and that was me. So it's like from a distance. That was a fun day to shoot because there was like a helicopter following me at sunset down the West Side Highway, and I was like in her clothes. So I do that a little bit. Mostly it's just standing in, which is watching her do the scene, taking note of her movement, everything she does, how she's leaning, her choices, when she moves, when she crosses, to help the camera team and the lighting team light her and then move around her in the scene. So, and wow. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's cool that, Shiv could be queer. I know Sarah's talked about some backstory for Shiv, that she was like doing some like grunge like music scene when she was in college. I'm on a few dating apps, and one person on a dating app messaged me, you look like Shiv Roy storming Pride. And I was like, you're not wrong. It became a kind of running joke with the cast. I showed them like, oh, they pinpointed the Shiv in me. So I don't mind being like the gay version of Shiv. I mean, that's like such a compliment. Sarah's so lovely. So yeah.
I met her in the bathroom at the Emmys this past year. She looked incredible. And I went up to her and I was like, you look so hot. And I very awkwardly, speaking about bodies, I was like, and your body is so hot, which is wildly inappropriate.
I've never said that to her, but we're colleagues. I feel like if it was the Emmys, you can get away with it.
And nobody, and that's the thing, is I sort of am like stealth gay. I think, which I've talked about a lot on this show, and others, has its negatives and positives, and depending on how you look at it, if any of it's positive or negative at all, really that's subjective as well. But I was just like, God, your body is so hot. And it actually was very creepy that I said that, but she didn't take it as such, or at least I hope she didn't. But stunning in real person, a lot taller. So you must be quite tall as well, then.
Yeah, I think we're both 5'5", so pretty average.
Oh, okay. I'm small.
I like the term stealth gay, though. I might have to steal that because, like, I was recently messaging someone who is maybe more what I guess mainstream culture would look at and say like clearly queer presenting, or clearly more butch presenting as a female identifying person. And I was like, I'm an invisible gay. Like, you don't get points for casting me. I want to like be like, people are like, yeah, I guess she's telling us she's gay, but like we could hire this other person that's more obviously looks what we think is what looks gay. And then people will know that we hired a gay person.
Yes.
So I feel that as like an invisible femme, but I like the term stealth. Like I'm sneaking the gayness into the room.
You're like in a stealthy way. The gayness into Shiv. I can imagine you've done how many episodes or seasons now? 3? Have you been on every season?
The last 2 seasons. So season 3 and 4. I joined in 2020. So I'm Canadian. I was back in Canada for the first part of the pandemic. And then I came back to New York in September of 2020. And things were like, productions were just starting. No one was vaccinated yet. And there weren't a lot of jobs. And I have a friend who was the stand-in for Logan, and we'd met on a set, and he'd said, "You could be a great stand-in for Sarah." So he actually kind of kept encouraging me and put in a good word for me. And I was like, I just want a job to go to, like it was a 6-month gig where they hired 8 of us and we were full time. We got paid on a weekly contract. And in
Amazing.
2020, that was like a lifesaver, not just financially, but also just to have a team, a group, a place to go to work every day, a purpose in the world, like some place to get out of the house and like go see the same faces and have like a ritual. I think a lot of people were missing that. So that's how I got started.
Was that the first stand-in job you've ever had?
Was it? No, I met Tim Wilson, who's a stand-in for Logan, on the set of Trial of the Chicago 7, where I had like a 2 or 3 day stand-in gig, which Jeremy Strong also worked on. So that's how we met. And then since then, I've gotten a lot of now that people know me as Sarah's stand-in, like it's easy for me to get work. So it's great.
Is that a different audition process, or is it like, is it a different agent? Is it the same thing?
It's basically generally there's not really an audition, but they'll bring you in sometimes as like for one day. Or my friend who stands in for Kendall, Matt, they brought him in as a bartender originally for a scene, and they actually brought in 3 different bartenders that they thought were maybe Kendall matches, and they like auditioned them by a day of work. So they just all had to like be a bartender in the background of a scene, and then they chose him to be Kendall's stand-in. So it's kind of like, yeah. So I actually, because I wanted the job, I did a day as like a secretary on set. And then I was like watching her stand in and scouting it out and being like, okay, I'm a better match. I'm a better fit for her. So then I kind of harassed casting until I got the job, to be honest. But
I love it. And you bumped out the previous stand-in, which feels very Succession vibes.
Yeah, the stand-in from the past 2 years, Kim Rideout, she went to Gilded Age. So she was already working on the Gilded Age. I think she's Christine Baranski's stand-in maybe on the Gilded Age, or maybe anyway. So she was already gone. So they only had like a temporary, they were finding a new person. So I just kind of hopped in there.
I love
and we
that.
matched like crazy. I mean, not to like, I mean, I don't think this is like pushing the boundaries, since you would go up to Sarah and be like, you're super hot in that. But like, if you're into her, you'd be into me. I'm just saying, like, we're like a crazy match. It's like the way we stand, the way we move, like it's uncanny. If you watch the Living Plus episode, like that was the first time I got to objectively see us in the same frame. And I was like, oh shit, like we really do. Can I swear on this? Is that?
Yeah, you can definitely swear.
Okay.
Yeah,
I swear all the time. So good.
Same. Whoa. I got to stop the interview real quick and talk to you listeners on the side. Did I just get hit on my own show? I have to say, while we were recording this, I kind of loved that she was like, well, if you're into her, you'd be into me. I was like, what? I don't know if I reacted appropriately or not appropriately, but I just wanted to commemorate this moment, that this might be, other than Renee Stubbs hitting on me, and now of course we're like basically sisters, which is sort of gross, but the fact that she sort of hollered at me on my last show, but not really hollered at me, she was flirting with me and now we're friends. I did love Holly's little moment here. Is Cinnamon your real last name?
It is. I actually have a business card that says, yes, it's my real name. Yes, it's my real hair. Because as a redhead, those are the first, with the last name Cinnamon, those are the first 2 questions I get. So I just made a business card that answers those 2 questions. Yeah, it's my family's name. I think it's from Northern Ireland originally, but there are a few of us in Canada. My aunt is a painter. I feel like I always have to say, my aunt is a painter, Shelley Cinnamon, and my brother works for NATO, Bruce Cinnamon, and like have evidence that other people in my family have that name so that people believe me. But yeah.
It's a fabulous name.
Thank you.
And the fact that you're a redhead, like it's what a vibe. You don't even have to go through the horrible trial and error of trying to think of a stage name if you had wanted one.
Yeah.
I went through that exercise very strangely at some point when I was still working with my band, and I was like, oh God, I need a stage name. My name is so dumb. And then every stage name that I subsequently came up with was very stupid. Sometimes it works. Sometimes
Mhm.
people get a stage name and it totally works, but others, like you, Madonna, also blessed
Right.
with a birth name that really kind of
Uh-huh.
works. In looking at your album cover, your social media, you're so colorful. You obviously have like the gorgeous red hair, you've got your light eyes. You're just like such a
Uh-huh.
light,
Thank you.
colorful. That's kind of the vibe that I got.
Uh-huh.
Um but
I love
but
that.
yeah, but the last 2 seasons of you being on Succession, it's like Shiv is always wearing these kind of
Yeah.
gray brown suits. There's been a lot of discussion about also like stealth wealth and
Uh-huh.
how the cast dresses. We also see like Lucas, in this gold ridiculous outfit this season.
Uh-huh.
What are your thoughts on the costumes that you wear on Succession as Shiv?
I mean, that's so funny you brought that up. And I feel like since I think I can talk about my thoughts on season 3 at least, because that's long past. It was a running joke on set that Shiv wears so much tan in season 3. Like
Yes.
I shared, do you remember that this is a throwback to like I guess better times, I don't know, more innocent times. In I think it was 2008, Obama wore a tan suit and there was like
Yes.
a giant scandal about like was that presidential of
Right.
Obama to wear a tan suit, I think to a press conference, and they called it like Suitgate. And to me that is an iconic moment because then if you flashed forward like 3 or 4 years, the conversation is like, is it presidential to commit sexual assault? Or like, is it presidential to commit fraud? But like 4 years earlier, we're like, is it presidential to wear a tan suit to a press conference? Like those were the days of our innocence.
I miss I
I
miss
love
those times. I
I
really
love
do.
that reference point when the news genuinely was like, well, this other news station says it's not presidential that he wore tan, but we over here think it might be presidential enough. And this is our story for today, folks. Like those were the days. I'm not a big fan of tan. I had to buy a lot of tan because I wear sometimes, if I'm photo doubling for Shiv, they'll give me her outfit to wear. But if I'm standing in, often they just want like the color tone to match for lighting. So I had to get I got this tan shawl and I would just put it over whatever I was wearing because I'm not a tan fan, as you noticed. Like
Wait,
I'm
do
a
they buy your clothes or do you have to go buy the clothes and then
Well,
they
for
reimburse
standing
you?
in, yeah, for standing in, they're kind of like if you can wear something in the same world or realm or color scheme just for lighting, because you're not going to be seen on camera when you're
Got
standing
it.
in. So it's
Okay.
just for them to set up. So it's kind of like depends on the director of photography. Some people are like, wear this color and they then wardrobe will give you the color.
Got
But
it.
some people are more flexible. So but it's just easier for me to just like have a few tan items in my wardrobe
Sure.
that I can just wear to work. So, but it became a running joke. There's actually a scene, and I think I can talk about this now because it's season 3. Um, there's a scene they're in a hotel, and that's not really that helpful because we shot in I think 7 hotels in season 3. It was like hotel season, and this season was like tarmac season. Like we
Oh
shot
yeah,
on
so
so
many
many tarmacs.
tarmacs. That's
You'll see a
true.
tarmac almost if you went back and watched, you'd be like, oh, they're on a tarmac almost every episode of the season at some point.
Yeah, you're
Um,
right. Actually, because they're constantly flying. Well, and also
yeah.
obviously no spoilers, but it's already happened. But there is a death on a plane.
Uh-huh.
If you
On a
haven't watched the
tarmac.
show,
Uh-huh.
then there you go. Yeah, on a tarmac. Plus, they're going back and forth to Europe the entire fucking
Mm-hmm.
season so
And
far,
LA. We shot
and
in LA
LA.
for a bit. And yeah, there's a lot. There's even more. I mean, I love the scene. I think it was in 406, the last episode where or maybe 404, but where Skarsgård crosses to Shiv's plane in bare feet across the tarmac. I was sitting in there when he first crossed and he was just like, I think I want to wear bare feet for this scene. And I think he thought we were actually rolling the scene. So he just walks over and then I'm sitting in the plane and they're lighting me. And I'm like, hey, no, just me. We haven't started yet.
I can
We had a
say
whole
this
conversation about his feet.
as a well, I identify as bisexual, so I guess this won't be shocking. But Alexander Skarsgård, I used to see he would go to the West Hollywood Equinox on like Tuesday mornings and work out.
Uh-huh.
And I have to say, he's like very hot. actual, like a very subjectively, he's super fucking tall from what I remember and very, very fuckable. Like I would have a kid. Now that's like always my baseline, right? Because I'm like married. My wife and I are like, oh, who would we have like a kid with? I would for sure have a kid with Alexander.
I mean, he's
Skarsgård.
got that lean. That's the thing. And maybe that's his Mattson character, but when he's on, like, he's always kind of like hunched and like leaning over, and it's like a charming kind of lean physically that he's got going. I don't know. I'm not one to comment on men.
Fair enough. I'm not asking. I'm just commenting myself that I find him to be quite handsome. Anyway, rather here nor there.
He's very charming. But anyway, back to hotels. So we were in season 3, we shot in a lot of hotels. And there's a scene where Shiv and Tom is like, I think like Shiv is having her period, or she's not having her period. She's ovulating, and Tom somehow knows that. And he like basically wants to get her pregnant in a scene. And he's like pushing her into like they're in like a little kind of like food prep area. Anyway, they originally had her leaning up against this thing with all these tablecloths in it. And it was so funny because the whole season I had been saying like, oh my gosh, she's always matching the drapes and the carpet. Like everything is tan and she's always in tan. It's like they want her to be a chameleon or something. Like she's like you said, she has such a beautiful figure. I'm like, put her in green, put her in like, no offense to the wardrobe, but I was like, put her in a jewel tone. Like I'm a redhead. I wear jewel tones. Like they just make your eyes, your features pop, that high contrast, but she's always wearing tan. And then there's a scene and Tom is supposed to like kind of push her up against this rack of tablecloths, and all the tablecloths were tan and her wardrobe was tan, and they like set it up, lit it. And I was like, guys, this is going to look insane. And then brought her in and they're like, oh shoot, like we can't shoot this here because we can't see the scene happen because she's just camouflaging into the tablecloths. And they had to get the hotel to go to like a different area of the hotel and get like all of these other colored tablecloths and replace the entire rack of tablecloths so they didn't match her wardrobe.
Classic.
And I just thought, anyway, it's not a fan of the beige. I will say my favorite, I think, ever Shiv look was in the very last episode in that restaurant at the very opening of the scene. She's wearing like a kind of like icy gray. The very top of this episode 7 with the brothers when they're having a meeting in the restaurant.
about the funeral and who's going to talk and all that stuff.
Yeah,
right?
It's almost like the color you're wearing now. It's like a gray, blue ice. I just thought that looked so good on her. I was like, this cooler tone. I've been missing it. But
the Italian outfits were they in Italy for the wedding.
The floral dress. I like
floral
the white
dress was good. Even
dress.
The white, like, and then even this season she's wearing, even to the wedding on the boat, like some sexier kind of outfits, like with the gold grommets somewhere, something. Anyway,
she has little locks, I think, on her cuffs.
It gets like a little spicier for her, which I'm very happy about.
Yeah. I think she's wonderful. She's a wonderful person to work with too, and she's so grounded. We're both very, I don't know if, I mean, I hate to like label other people, but I would say bohemian in our wardrobe. Like we're very much both the opposite of Shiv in our everyday wardrobe. It's like, I think we both shop at like vintage and secondhand places and like recycled materials. And, so when she shows up, like we have the same vibe, and then she changes into Shiv. And I will say, when I did get to try on the Shiv clothes, when I photo doubled though, they feel expensive. Like I was like, oh, my skin has never, it's like being in, I don't know, 10,000 thread count sheets or something. My skin is just like, ooh, I feel sexier. I know. I know what rich people must just like feel sexy all the time because of the threads on their skin.
I love that.
Maybe that's appealing.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's pretty unique and wonderful to be a part of such an iconic, respected, well-written, well-lit, well-directed show. And I think, for anyone at any stage in their career, like, I think, again, that's why it's so interesting, the position that you're in, I find, because you have this ability to really like work with all the different teams in a really unique way. And you're getting such a masterclass in how to like really put a show together. obviously the show is ending this season, which is very sad, but it does give you an opportunity to go and do other things. And it sounds like you've done other stand-in work again. Is it common, because you look so similar to Sarah, for you to like potentially work again with her? Like, do stand-ins sometimes work with people on a regular basis because they look so similar?
Yeah, we've definitely talked about that. I've talked about it with her. She has my card, she has my number. Her next project, which I don't think is a surprise at this point to anyone, is her baby.
Yes.
So she, I think, is in Australia right now, having her baby with her family. And because we talked about it, and she was like, well, for my next project. And I was like, really? You have another project lined up? And she's like, no, I mean this. And I was like, okay, I wasn't gonna advise you on your life, but like, I think you could take a break. I think you've been very successful, and you could focus on so that's her focus now. So we'll see. I mean, when she comes back to working again, whenever she decides to, I would be happy to work with her. She's amazing to work with. And I've stood in for other people. I stood in for Jessica Chastain quite a bit recently. There are actors like, that I look like Amy Adams, I'd love to work with. I love her work in Arrival in particular. That was one of my favorites.
That was a good
and
one.
Sharp Objects. I just think she's brilliant. But I mean, also, I'm doing my own work. It's great to work on shows just to meet directors too.
Sure.
I think right now I'm working on a show with a really cool director. I can't really talk too much about it, I don't think, but it's a great way to like network, and everyone in the industry loves Succession. So they always like to hear the juicy behind the scenes details. So
I know. I've been very
kind.
I've been kind and respectful, I will say, by not asking you too many insane things. I hope.
You don't really want spoilers though. That's the thing.
No, I don't. I actually don't want the spoilers.
No one really wants them. So people ask me that a lot. Like, was it hard to keep it a secret? I'm so glad that I really don't think it got out about the death in episode 403.
No, I don't think it did. I actually think
that is
amazing. Great. And I was so happy for it though. As a viewer, I don't want spoilers. I think on this show now specifically, people sort of know my kind of strange life story with celebrity in Hollywood. And some things I always say, it's just better left unknown or just organic, right? Like I always say, don't meet your heroes, because honestly, celebrities are monsters. But generally speaking, that's a huge general statement. Obviously, there are exceptions to the rule everywhere. But I think the mystery and kind of the sparkle of Hollywood and discovering storylines, or like, I'm glad, even though, Sarah, she did the red carpet pregnant, and I think everybody knew she was, that you didn't know how the writing was going to unfold, and if and when it was going to mirror what is life imitating.
And you still don't.
I
do, but you don't. And I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, don't. Because that last episode, that fight, actually, I have to ask you.
Ask me.
As a viewer of the show, how did you feel about that fight between Shiv and Tom out on the balcony on election night?
Yeah.
Was it hard to watch? Did you think that like they needed to have a fight like that? Or do you think it was like dirty fighting?
Well, I mean, I have a really interesting perspective because like I am there when I read the script, we set it up, we light it, then I watch them do it like over a few hours. So I see them do like a bunch of takes, and then I see the final edit and how the scene comes together. So it was fun to see her in the Norway episode with Skarsgård, those scenes, because I didn't go to Norway with them, so I hadn't seen those. So that I was seeing like a viewer. But I felt very satisfied to some extent that they were finally just saying it, like that finally that volcano that we've been like watching. There's a lot of that happening this season, that all of these like volcanoes that haven't erupted yet are just starting to explode, and all the words are coming out that have been under the surface the whole time. So that was kind of satisfying. And it's also like, they're so good, those two actors, in silence, and like some of the heartbreaking scenes of like getting into bed, getting out of bed, waking up alone in bed, we saw Shiv on the call with the doctor already, hearing about Shiv's pregnancy, but we haven't seen Shiv and Tom have any interaction around. So like Shiv has this thing that she's carrying with her alone, basically, now. And so seeing like that kind of solitary experience, as well as like how these things start to combust between the characters, is I think a really exciting part of season 4. And yeah, I mean, I'm just such a fan of them both as actors. They're so sweet as people, and to see them like get to that place of like extremely like beating each other up is it's like amazing to see people that you have so much love for go to that place, because it hurts even more. So
Sure.
that's what I'll say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I go back and it's like you know, you want them to make it work, but you're also like, are these people like,
They're
well, I mean,
not.
they're
Yeah,
like
they're
they
not good.
should not be
They're not
together.
good for each other. Yeah, and they don't even know. That's something that I love. There's something, I think it was in 402, but there was like a moment where you really saw Shiv see her own blindness. I think it was a conversation with her and Tom where she's like on the edge of the bed and she's kind of looking away from him, and you see these moments of like her seeing the gaps in her own awareness around how present she really isn't in that relationship, and like maybe that there's a lot of emotional places where she never has let herself go, and a lot of things she never lets herself feel. And I think you see a flicker of her starting to feel, and this season is really pulling that out of all of the characters, starting to feel the places that they never let themselves go.
Yeah.
And like even Roman and Jerry, and that scene, I have to say the scene in 406 between Roman and Jerry where he essentially is like, firing her spontaneously and like holding all this shit over her. Just, I love that character, but that was like almost a deal breaker for me. I was like, I can't love this character anymore. Like that was too low for me. But seeing like that all come out and really be out in the open is really satisfying too.
Yeah, the Jerry Roman relationship is just, I mean, and then when he shares the dick pic to Logan is just, I think I had to like cover my eyes. I was just
Yeah.
like, oh my God. And then you feel for her
Yeah.
so intensely because you're like, dude, Jerry, what the fuck did you get yourself involved in? And she
Yeah.
obviously had pleasure in some of it. But there's there's so many power dynamics. It's
I
so
love Jerry. If
Jerry's
I had to, I mean, I'm obviously team Shiv. It's funny when so in episode 406, I played Lana, who, so I went from being Shiv stand-in for all of season 4, the first 5 episodes, and then 406, I skipped to a principal role and then back to a stand-in role in 407. So in 406, I play Lana, who's a financial advisor, who's essentially congratulating and advising Kendall. And from the way it's set up, clearly like hired by Kendall for this Living Plus presentation that he's doing. And so I felt like I flipped from Team Shiv to Team Kendall for an episode. And even, Sarah and I were chatting, and actually that's the day, because we were sitting around between takes, and actually that's when I found out that she was pregnant, which was fun and
yeah.
nice for her to share with me. That was back in October. But I was saying to her, like, I kind of feel this weird guilt that I've betrayed Team Shiv and I've gone over to the dark side, and I'll be back to Team Shiv next episode, I promise. So, but it was fun. It was definitely fun to play a principal role after watching these actors work as a stand-in for 2 seasons, to get to then be in a scene when everyone is in it. Tom, Greg, Shiv, Roman, Kendall, Carolina, Hugo. It was such an honor. I realized at one point I was the only person in that scene with lines who hadn't won an Emmy and a SAG award, because they won, the shows won an Emmy, and then they won like a SAG award for best ensemble, or whatever the award is called, like best ensemble of actors in a drama. So I realized watching that scene back, like, oh, I'm the only person in this scene that didn't win an Emmy and a SAG award for this show. That's pretty cool company to be in as an actor.
Yes, I would say so. That's what I mean. It's like you have such a very cool front row seat. And it sounds like to me, what I love is like, I love that you know, have played different characters throughout your time and going back and forth. That's such an, a wonderful thing to hear because sometimes like it just sounds like there's movement. You have built such a lovely relationship with so many different people. And that's again, it's such a unique thing. And when you work on a show or you're doing a play or you know there's such a camaraderie that comes out of those experiences, especially when you're doing them in the I can't imagine what it was like, you know, getting hired during the pandemic and sort
Mhm.
of going through those motions. Okay, you know, you mentioned dating apps, etc. Somebody kind
Uh-huh.
of saying that you reminded them of Shiv. How many dates or is it the first date do you admit like currently cuz Succession is such a big show that you are
Uh-huh.
a Shiv stand-in?
I mean, I guess it just depends on if and when it comes up. I mean, it's pretty obvious on my social media, so if somebody's connected to
Oh,
my
fair
social
enough.
media, they'll see it, but I mean, yeah, sometimes I'll meet people and they'll be like, "You look like Shiv," or they'll know that I work on Succession, or I'll talk about working on set, or they'll bring up the show, and then I mean, I'm not hiding it from anyone. And I funnily, you know, when that Barbie meme thing
Mhm.
came out from the Barbie movie, quite a few different people sent me like this is the gay Shiv Roy Barbie
Yes.
icon. So I had to post that. So people, you know, people I think do love it's cool. I guess somebody interviewed me and said that Succession has a big queer following and that I mean, obviously there's like some queer kind of bro vibes in the Tom Greg dynamic that's kind of I don't know. I find it very uncomfortable, but I mean, there's a big queer following, so it's like kind of cool to have these fans that are like, "Oh, you're the gay Shiv Roy," or that you're I like as a queer person to be on that set.
I mean, listen, I told my colleague who I adore, Chris Murphy, who covers Succession for Vanity Fair quite a bit. I was like, "Chris," I messaged him on Slack when you originally reached out to me, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh my god, did you know Shiv Standen is a fucking lesbian?" He's like, "This is the best news I've ever heard." I'm like, "It is the best news I've ever heard too."
Oh,
So I love it. And I love that, you know, as you said, like representation matters so much. And I think that, you know, more queer folks, especially like femme queer
mhm.
identifying women, it's there, that's like a whole nother conversation that could take us another direction. And that's like a whole nother topic for discussion, but it's so important to see different people represented
Yeah.
in the queer space. So I think it's wonderful. And I hope it does nothing but like, you know, make everything just pop even more for you. That's what I
Yeah,
hope.
and whether I'm on screen or behind the scenes, like I am out at work and on set, you know, not necessarily like right away, but like in time, you know, you have conversations like everyone does and like I'm transparent with the crew and you know, I talk about like dating or I just try to be out if I can, you know, if it makes sense. And I think that that's important too, whether or not I like make it onto the screen, like I notice because people have these ideas or stereotypes often unconsciously and just for people for that to be normalized oh like a femme woman in the space that I wouldn't have like assumed that about you you know or people do assume or I talk about a story and they're like oh yeah did he and I'm like yeah well when we were dating she was actually you know and I think that that matters just in terms of even working with creatives and like long term, them thinking about people in terms of casting. So I think being visible on set and behind the scenes and in all aspects of the industry, I mean, it's getting better and better slowly. And then it was exciting to me that I put out a single called Small Town Queer, which I'm going to take a minute to promote if that's cool.
Go for it. Go for it.
Right when Succession came out at the end of March, I released a single. It's a country song called Small Town Queer. And I made a music video with it. And it's about my experience growing up queer in rural Alberta, in Canada. So, and I think it's so important to see queer people not only in big urban centers, but at different stages in their life and in rural communities too. I mean, obviously people in a lot of communities like that are being targeted right now and also just have always existed everywhere and lead all sorts of different lives, not necessarily just the lives that we see presented in mainstream media. So I really like that kind of like erasing that kind of polarization of left and right politically, and the gender binary, the political binary, but also like rural and urban, and like secular versus like religious. Like we have all these divisions, and so that's what that piece is about, which is kind of almost the opposite world of Succession.
It's 100%, which
I
I love. Actually, I love
yeah.
that you. And also, like, you got to use what you've got.
I
Like,
use that platform.
You have to. You know what I mean?
And
it's
I
so
got
important.
a lot of press around that release at that time, and the Succession premiere. And then Lorene Scafaria, who I have to shout out, who directed the episode of Succession that I was cast in, who's the director of Hustlers, the writer and director of Hustlers, and The Meddler, and a ton of great movies, Hustlers with J-Lo and Constance Wu, and Trace Lizette, who also I'll plug the movie Monica. If you haven't seen it, Trace Lizette has a new film that's about to come out about a trans woman. I think I'm seeing it tomorrow, but returning home to see her family for the first time after a long estrangement. So that's exciting. I think it's like the first time that a trans woman is the title character in a film that's like screening across North America. So I might be not perfectly accurate about that fact, but definitely
regardless, we don't see a lot of lead trans women
especially
in film. So whatever is correct and not correct, that seems to be the truth.
Yeah, Lorene directed her in Hustlers and cast me in this episode, and just working with her was incredible. And then she is an angel investor in my new album that I'm doing. So
it's wonderful.
It's just amazing to see support like that from that community. So
love
to feel that support. Yeah.
Well, Holly, you're a dream. I really love the fact that while Shiv might not be gay in the show, her stand-in is in real life. And I fucking love it. It really gives a lot of body, a lot of dimension to the character of Shiv, even though it breaks, the fourth wall. I loved my conversation with Holly because as a former actor, and I think like that even though the job of being an actor is to embody somebody else, quite literally, it's such an interesting role and exercise to be mirroring another actor being someone else. And you have to be that person being someone else. I don't know. I'm not on mushrooms and I'm not stoned, but it did kind of like blow my mind a little bit, and to learn more about the role. And I think it's cool. I can't imagine the connections that Holly has made on the Succession set. I also really loved the fact that they cast her in other roles as well. I think that's really cool. And I loved hearing about that. Her music is lovely. I went and took a little gander, and you should totally download her music and listen to her. And speaking of doing nice things for others, do me a favor. If you have not liked, subscribed, or written me a little review on Apple Podcasts, I would really appreciate it. And if you want more content, go check out my Patreon. Pride is coming, so there's going to be some fun episodes that are coming up. And I'm trying to do some fun extra episodes. And I also really want to do a Pride Patreon, kind of like sip and chill. The last time I did one person, 2 people showed up. So I'm trying to figure out how to do one a little bit better. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. If you have not watched Succession, it ends on Sunday, so maybe now is the time to binge.